Today, there's hardly any media plan that does not have any element of digital medium in it. Brands have realized the advantages of associating with this medium and are consistently upping their spending on it. Today, digital accounts for over 25% of the overall AdX and is rapidly expanding with newer platforms and technologies. To get more deeper into this, we have our next panel discussion around the changing paradigm of media business with the emergence of the digital age. I would like to invite Satyajit Sen, Head of Product and Community at ET Brand Equity, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Satyajit.
Hi everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion on the changing paradigm of media business with the emergence of digital age. As you all know that media planning has rapidly evolved in the last, and especially with the advent of digital medium. Today there is hardly any media plan that does not have an element of digital medium in it. Brands have realized the advantages of associating with this medium and are constantly upping their spends in reference to this medium. As for reports, digital's share of spends has rapidly grown, and from 20% in 2019 to 29.4% in 2021, and it is expected to reach a whopping 32.7% by the end of 2022. These numbers are big, right? And in this scenario, marketers and media planners are often have to tackle a question of in this digital age, how do I reach my younger audience? Do I go all digital in my plan, or should I automate the media planning, and how can I outsource it, and so on and so forth? There are a lot of questions that marketers and media planners and brand owners, business owners face while navigating through this changing paradigm in the digital age. So in this session today, we are trying to address all these questions. And to help us do that, we have an eminent panel of experts who have been driving this change, who have been in the forefront of this change that media business and media planning has seen through the ages. I'm honored to be joined by a panel of experts, and it's my great honor to actually introduce my panel. We have Mr. Jackson Chabru, Head of Media at ITC. We also have Mr. Vivek Pandey, Vice President, Revenue Strategy at Times Internet Limited. Next, Mr. Jay Lala, CEO at Zenith, and Mr. Ananya Agarwal, Head of Media at AB InWeb. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you so much for taking out time today and helping us and our audience understand the changing paradigm of media planning business in this digital age. We'll start with this first question to Mr. Chapru here from ITC. So Jackson, I can, basically, we are talking about the change that the media environment has really seen, the way that media planners and buyers are going by in their business. And that change is basically, being demonstrated or being led by the digital growth, they say, right? So, how do we really, come to a media plan that is really balanced and that really, does justice to both digital and traditional mediums as such. So, in your thoughts as a brand custodian or as a business owner, what really looks like a balanced media plan in current scenario?
See, the objective of any media plan primarily is to reach out to the correct target audience and communicate the message. Today, if the audiences have started fragmenting on a particular medium and are actually spending more time on some other medium, as a media professional, I think the task is in terms of ensuring that you are chasing your target audiences any which ways. So whether it's a TV or a print or a radio or out of home or digital or OTT, if that's the journey that my audience is taking, that's how I will start kind of casting my plan in a way. The fact of the matter is the last 20 odd months, there has been a bit of shift in the viewing habits of people. The screen consumption has significantly gone up, whether it's a TV screen or whether it's your personal screen. Content is being consumed, and that actually came into light right in the beginning of the initial months of the pandemic, partly led by the fact that original content was missing, movies were not coming out, And for somebody who wants to kind of have his daily dose of, and people are actually sitting at home and couldn't step out of their homes. So the initial period was also a time wherein people were getting used to this new fact of a new style of living, working, sitting at home. Part of the day goes in meetings, and the balance part is free. And by sheer logic, over a few days, people actually started looking for fresher content, and that's when probably they discovered the abundance of content on the OTT platforms and started moving in there. From a media perspective, some of these platforms do not allow advertising, but most of the other platforms which allow advertising started as media professionals started gunning after the audiences on those platforms. uh, Also, the fact that see, brands were always aware of the potential of digital as a medium. It was just the sheer fact that given the limited budget in hand, they were never at that flexibility of trying to take that plunge and say, okay, can I kind of put in a bit more on digital and see how it's giving ROI back to the brand. But that particular phase also allowed these experiments to kind of flourish awesomely. The second part of the thing is, significant amount of homegrown influencers also started kind of talking about certain content. uh, People were kind of getting putting in more time on their social platforms, social whether it's a Facebook or whatever. So even those platforms kind of had an advantage overall. So it was not just an OTT platform or a video streaming platform. Even the social platforms kind of had a bit of a peak at that point of time. See, if I recollect the numbers correctly, TV used to be around 3.4 hours a day, and digital or video streaming was almost similar or slightly higher than this number. Whether it was on social platforms, watching content, playing games, but that was the kind of number that kind of average during the initial periods of pandemic. So somebody who's on 8 hours on screen is bound to kind of have a lot of experiments on those platforms as well. So if, as I said, following my audience and trying to communicate my message, that's how even our plans kind of evolved during that time.
So Ananya, we already have spoken about the changing media environment. The digital to from traditional to digital journey that media buyers and business owners are taking. So do you see is it still that digital is complementing traditional, or digital has become really big in that part in the media mix that it can be a standalone? I mean, we are seeing a lot of standalone spends from the media owners. So how do you see an advent of the balanced media plan in this entire mix for brands?
So I think, Satrajit, a lot starts from both the ambition and appetite of a brand, right? Now, they can be an ambition, but if the appetite to spend is fairly conservative, then essentially all media planners, all media heads, and the marketers are focusing on mediums which are most efficient in terms of not just giving them an opportunity to measure better, but also being able to reach out to a more identified and better defined segment, right? And essentially it's I, at least in my practice, I've seen a digital first kind of a narrative in almost all plans. I've been part of multiple companies in the last few years, and I've always seen, I think, the conversation starting from digital first. TV definitely is something I believe now is becoming more like a novelty for largest spenders, where they are looking at recruitment and activation in a more passive or silent segment, right? And that's where I feel like the entire word, the narrative is changing from a TV plus planning to a digital plus planning, right? And this is of course, I'm sure from Jay and Vivek, they'll have a wider perspective in terms of how other advertisers and industries are looking at it. But I believe even with connected TVs, with digital out of home, the slow movement towards like the fact that everything is coming under the wider radar of programmatic, right, is basically forcing everyone to look at that digital first kind of a narrative in their boardrooms.
So you rightly mentioned about the digital first approach that brands and business owners are taking. So taking a cue from your answer, I'll connect this to my next question to Vivek. So Vivek, thanks internet has been a preferred partner for a lot of brands, right? And preferred digital partner for a lot of brands through its plethora of products and publications that you have. So what has been your understanding and your experience while you talk to like these brand owners and marketers as far as digital plans are concerned and digital spends are concerned?
No, I think completely would echo and start from what Ananya said, that I think it's always a question of how much is your wallet, and the smaller the wallet, the bigger the quest for returns. I think the only caveat I would add, we have seen even in the case of the bigger spenders, what they're doing today is that they're breaking it down into so many smaller chunks of budgets, and have such large team of marketers, and reps on the agency front as well, that eventually a guy is actually holding a small piece, we always have this tussle with brands that you guys have so many crores of budget, and why are you worrying about CPA and CPI so much? But then the guy would say that the guy at the other end would say that I'm not holding all of that budget, my budget is only 2% of that, and I have to be accountable to my boss for ROI on that, so I have to be stingy about that. That happens in a few cases, where big also starts acting like small. And to your question about traditional versus digital, I think that's very important, and it's a question that has been already being asked for a decade now. The answer has changed a little bit because I think digital has evolved. Digital is able to offer more than just pure plain vanilla banner ads, and one-way communication. A lot of experiences are getting built up. A lot of data is coming to the picture, where I think agencies and publishers are working very closely with advertisers to create end-to-end integrations, native experiences within the apps. That's what I think advertisers are looking for, and that is where I think the lure of digital is. You can't do all of that in traditional. So I think we are seeing a lot of dedicated dollars flowing in, where we are not competing with traditional media. We are also not selling digital plain vanilla. But when you look at like, for example, the Times Internet Spotlight division, or when you have like other brand solutions division in the larger publishers, they I think are getting a lot of good scale by being able to design digital first, deep data driven consumer experiences that work both for the brand and the advertiser. Of course, when you come to pure impression based buying, as Ananya said, programmatic is the way. Heavy optimization is going on, and there is always a sort of advantage that is there with traditional media for bigger budgets. But I think through brand solutions and through innovative immersive experiences, digital is unlocking some additional value. That's what I feel, Satrajit.
Great. And coming from you, you are at the cusp of this digital revolution that India is currently, we are currently seeing. And coming from you, it's a really a green signal that, the wallets are really getting big right now. So, Jay, I would really like to come to you here, right? So as Vivek and Anna mentioned that, it's really is a game of wallets here, right? So we have generally seen that, as the spends go deep, there are pertinent questions that are only asked from the digital medium as far as performance is concerned and the ROI metrics, right? We have not seen marketers asking these questions for the traditional medium, but since digital is much more measurable in that sense, these questions are quite pertinent. What I wanted to ask you is that, are these questions, are these a good, is it a good sign to be more measurable and, be more transparent in that sense?
101%. So, see, I just wanted to like probably bring a precursor to your question. See, first of all, what happens is that brands are it's not about mediums. So it's not about TV or digital or something like that. It's about consumers. So what is my consumer doing, and that is what I would like to follow. And as we all know, we don't need numbers or anything. We know that consumers are converting more and more towards digital, and that is why this entire flow which is happening. Coming to your second question is that why is digital looked more with a magnifying glass versus other mediums. Again, there are two schools of thought, and probably, like, there is my personal POV also. We've been brought up in a certain way when we do TV, print planning, and all that, and it has been like, going on for years. So you followed that, you've tried to improvise it and all that, and you've sort of followed that. Digital is new. Okay, so there are a lot of metrics, and it comes with this whole thing about performance. So it depends on what stage the brand is. Is it top funnel? Is it bottom funnel? Bottom funnel means complete accountability. Like, I'm going to spend the money, I need my return on that. If it is top funnel, also there is accountability, but in a different manner. So these are the questions which are being pushed across, and because it is possible, we keep pushing it more. uh, but also digital also has its unique challenge, which is again measurability. I can't measure everything on the same sort of barometer. So unlike TV, where everything, there is a neutral body which measures everything, digital has turned it. So it's a very precarious situation, because at one point of time we are trying to get deeper and trying to measure the ROI of that platform per se, but I'm not being able to compare it with other platforms on a same scale. So it's a little, and the industry needs to get evolved on that, because we have seen growth, and we can see much more growth if we can sort of overscale that. I
Right.
hope I've tried to answer your question.
Yes, yes, right. So, that's an interesting point of view, and this, I would like to come to the, brand here in the panel. So, Ananya, so as Jai mentioned, right, the more the measurability it has, given up, basically more questions to the digital medium. So,
Yes.
you as a brand, right, do you see digital medium really, so performance is one thing, programmatic really complementing when it comes to branding exercises in, on social media, or on video, or so performance versus branding, like, how do you see this evolving in the digital medium?
I think this entire narrative of performance only started with digital, right? Like earlier, pre-digital, the conversation was around ATL and BTL, right? And suddenly, when digital came in, the conversation started becoming around, like, basically, I think digital really started giving a shape to the funnel, right? And making marketers realize that, okay, there is something that where you can actually drive a proper end-to-end funnel marketing. At the same time, I completely echo Jay's point that everything is driven by consumer. Now, India being a value driven market, where even the consumer looks at value in every single product, whether it's a luxury product or a core product. uh, the same nature, like, sort of extends to the marketers as well, right? Everyone wants to see how anything that they're investing on is driving return immediately. Especially, I think, with pandemic, a lot of businesses, a lot of industries have been forced to focus and move the narrative from building brand to bringing businesses back. And I think that also, to a larger degree, has fueled this entire push towards looking at every single penny on digital from a lens of what will be the ROAS and ROI, right? Even if it is a branding campaign. And we also know, and both Jay and Vivek are leading like a lot of practices on the forefront, which are not only limited to paid media or advertising, right? There's content marketing, there is discoverability for a brand in organic space, there is influencer marketing. Now, digital so the conversation is not just about the fact that how much of the addicts is moving to digital. The conversation is also about the fact that digital is not unlike TV, not just limited to uh, a straightforward either a product placement or a advertising. It is actually has become far more and versatile. So it leads to a lot of inquisitiveness, that, okay, how do you measure a YouTube campaign versus a Facebook campaign? How do you measure? Because on otherwise there is bark for TV. There are there is iris for other mediums. There is no like no single point of or single source of truth in terms of giving us a regulated kind of a measure that okay, like which is a better performing medium, unless you are completely invested on a massively overwhelming tech stack behind, right, which is connecting all your dots offline to online to offline narrative, everything like that. So it is becoming overbearing, overwhelming at many point of times. Abundance of data and matrices is always like a distraction versus actually a like giving a direction. So I think hence coming back, like it is important that marketers understand what is important for them, and they are able to identify and like pick up those important points or datas or matrices from the cluster and plethora of like things which are very shiny or confusing.
One question that digital has always faced, and digital mediums have always faced, and from brand owners, is basically on the measurability part, right? Digital has always been sold and always
Hmm.
been as a as a transparent medium, which really helps marketers and brand owners to really gauge the success of the campaign, right? Even then, and even after that, there are a lot of strong questions that are being asked to digital, uh, because of the the dynamic nature that digital is, because there are a lot of questions that comes up or creeps up in the marketer's mind, that he really needs to answer. So you, as a brand custodian, as a brand as a business owner here, right? What are the kind of questions that you seek when you when you go when you go towards creating a digital media plan for your business?
See, two, three things. One is I'll first touch upon the measurement, and then I will kind of get into the core of the question. See, while digital as a medium provides a significant amount of data, the relevant data is still kind of eluding us in a way. So I
Hmm.
might, as a medium, it is probably a bit more transparent than, let's say, a measurement on television or radio or print, or for that matter, any other medium that we advertise on. And probably that's where the affinity again for digital starts increasing in a way. However, having said that, the challenge is today, if I have to kind of make a integrated plan, I don't have a single currency to get into discussing um, PVGRPs equated to, let's say, my AVGRPs equated to, let's say, print impressions in a matter. So, in an ideal case scenario, with the kind of tech intellect and IT intellect we have, this should have been like a stuff that we should have been kind of doing 10 years back. But again, that's how the industry has evolved, and I think for the past few years, lot of us advertisers have been actually pushing for a single source currency, at least between digital and television. So let's hope that whatever efforts that are going in just kind of see the light of the day very soon. But yeah, having said that, in terms of the tools and measurement that is available today, the way we get into doing digital media plans. See, one is obviously with our agencies, we have come with certain algorithms, some thumb rules or equivalent of those in a way. So loosely put in, there is some kind of algorithm these guys have come in saying that X number of impressions will lead to a increase of 50 GRPs in your AV plan, and probably will give you an increment of two reach points at 1+ and one reach point at 2+. So those are the kind of yardsticks that even we use at our end when we are doing an integrated plan today. Uh, is there a way to kind of go thump my hand on the desk and say, okay, is it the correct measure? Probably not, but that's the best I have today right now, and then the rest of it is gut. See, because
Right.
what tends to also happen is most of the OTT platforms, it's the maker and checker being the same person. So I have to take a blind faith and say, okay, probably this guy is, if he's saying that it's kind of hit a 4 million number, I kind of have to take it as is. There's no way to kind of ratify that number or verify that number yet again. Okay, you kind of take a leap of faith and go ahead.
So as a brand marketer here, do you really advocate a presence of a third party neutral body which really kind of gives you the correct numbers, or you are happy with the numbers that are presented by platform owners now?
See, obviously there will always be a doubt in my head if the platform owner is going to keep furnishing the data. Uh, Is there a need for a consolidated or syndicated data? Yes, there is a need for a syndicated data for sure. Does it necessarily need to be a separate entity? Maybe not. See, there were quite a few steps taken even by the BARC team, and in fact, during the pandemic, BARC and Nielsen had partnered together to kind of give us an access to consolidated viewership trends on digital as well as on traditional TV. So I'm dead sure that there is the backend that exists, because today, if Nielsen is sharing data through DAR and kind of giving some rich insights and other things, the backend is ready. I think the challenge is more in terms of the publishers who need to kind of just come ahead and shake hands and take it ahead. See, today, my personal opinion is that the conflict is in the heads of the publishers today, who wants to kind of take the step ahead first. Honestly, if I had it going my way, I would have actually reached out to, let's say, an equivalent of a YouTube or probably one of the number 3 or number 4 OTT platform, and ask them to come ahead and start kind of sharing their data. Then no offense on the ranking or anything, but let's say I would technically go to Unilever or a Woot and ask them to kind of come on board so that data is available. And by that way, leverage the same data source to probably Hotstar or YouTube for that matter.
Right.
But it's a matter of who blinks first.
Correct. Correct. So Jaghan,
I'm dead sure that nobody in the existing publishers is so huge hearted that they will kind of take that step and say, okay, come on, I'll kind of give my data, you go ahead and use this as a first mover to measure data.
This brings me to Vivek here. So Vivek, connecting to Ananya's, thought on the measurability quotient, right? You have been, you have been a preferred partner for a lot of brands. So what, as from the spotlight perspective, right? What are the kind of questions that you see or that you face from your brands as far as measurability metrics are concerned? And moving towards performance versus branding debate.
I think it is inversely proportional to the trust in the media. I think when the media that is involved is a highly trusted, well-known branded media, like for example, it's a Times of India, right? Less questions would be asked on performance, because I think being associated with the branded entity has a value in itself. And the lower down you go in that ladder, some brands are new, less well known, less well established, more questions are asked on performance. So I think that will be my simple candid answer to that. I think in Spotlight you mentioned brand solutions certainly struggles a little bit as to what is the performance metric, because it's all creativity. I think teams get together and they make these lovely videos and they create these lovely experiences, like Amit Saad traveling on a bike across the country for Samsung and lots of stuff. Now, how do you measure the impact of that, right? The ultimate measurement is if the client comes back and tells us a month later that, what, my sales have gone up. And we do get some of, sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't. Thankfully, in most of the cases, we do get lucky and clients do come back and tell us that, yes, we saw a good shift in our sales and we like to do it again later on. But, like we have been discussing the funnel, there are not many metrics in between to measure when you come to brand solutions, right? Either the whole thing works and lifts your sales or it doesn't. What we do try to solve for in such a situation, Satyajit, is that we have coupled our sort of solutions with inventory and measurable things in between. So like, for example, you do a video. So you also sort of, don't just charge the client for the producing the video and, all of that for the creativity part, but you also keep a certain amount for the video views that you also own that. So the dual ownership of creating content and also distributing that, I think distribution is easier to measure. Creation, I think, gets ultimately measured only when it hits the consumers and starts getting ROI. And I think lastly, to address, I think Jay made a very important point that ultimately it's about the consumer. So I think the media mix, between digital or traditional or even within digital, which channel to explore, I think any marketer who's not aware of their consumer, who's not aware of their target audience, will continuously struggle with these questions, because you have to go for the media where your consumer is, right? For some people, they don't need traditional at all. if your entire audience is on digital, you have to be aware of their consumption habits. They're not watching TV, they're not watching news. Why are you sort of going there? But there are some TGs who actually need traditional media because digital doesn't influence their TG. So I think consumer understanding is central, and people who approach media publishers agencies with consumer understanding, they have great success, work well with publishers and agencies. And those who don't, I think they keep struggling with these formulas. Should I do 40/60? Should I do 20/80? And that doesn't work. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Vivek. Very interesting input about the mediums that you mentioned, right? So it's a golden rule of marketing. Like, wherever my consumer is, I need to be there with my brand. So one such medium, and which has really influenced digital penetration is obviously the mobile phone, right? This brings me to Jay here. So Jay, what has been the kind of questions that you, or kind of knowledge gaps that you see in amongst marketeers or brand owners as far as mobile is concerned, and what are the kind of experiences that you had with brand owners and business owners when it comes to mobile in the entire digital mix?
In India, basically mobile is the lead medium when it comes to digital. Our entire growth, everything has happened through mobile. So that I think is a given fact now. We are not like sort of over stressing. Earlier it was like, I'm saying 3 years, 4 years ago. Earlier it was news but it's a given fact, and it's the mobile has helped in this whole digital growth in many ways. So one is obviously it's been able to go through markets which were considered in a way media dark. So there are like the UPs of the world and the Bihars of the world, smaller towns and all that. Mobile has penetrated there better than say, let's say TV. So that is something which mobile has been able to bring about. The second is that it's become a second screen, right? So whatever we are doing, either we are watching TV or something like that, mobile continues to be with us. Uh, so no dispute about mobile. There's absolutely no dispute about mobile. The dispute is, or I wouldn't say dispute, the challenge is that how do we like sort of benefit from this. So when we are watching TV and when we are using mobile, is how does that interplay can be used in a better way. So if an ad is being played on TV and then I can get some information on mobile. So there are technologies available, and work has happened on that. So the use of mobile is according to me, I think the biggest thing which has happened in India. And now it is coming to a stage where it is getting more into the connected TV. So everything was about small screen. Now it is about big screen. So even when creatives etc. were being made, the advice was always that keep in mind that most of the viewing is going to happen on a small screen. So don't just convert your TV ad and put it onto digital. It won't work. And obviously also the other way of looking at it is that he's consuming with a different mindset. So again, it's not just replicating there. But with the advent of connected TV, again, it brings about a whole circle of change. Because now up till now you've been talking about small screen. Now you're talking about really large screens. So it's a very interesting phenomena, and being like I'm saying a real opportunistic. I think these are ways and means to different ways and means to reach the consumer. Consumer is spending more and more time on media. That's for sure. So the total time spent has just gone up dramatically, and that gives us an opportunity. And just to add to what Vivek was talking about earlier, that it's now come to a stage where why digital is important, because there are brands which are looking at digital first strategy. So first digital, then we'll think about something else. Whereas there are a lot of other brands which have been doing offline, and then they're trying to see how digital can play a role. This itself is a great thing, because brands are looking at digital as the first medium, and there are a lot many brands. It's not just a few. When you're talking about the ADX hitting a 30% number, it has become the second highest medium right now. So it has overtaken print. So I think it's a great space to be in, and marketers are trying to leverage that. There's no doubt about it. There's no apprehension on that. There might be a little bit of leap of faith because of measurement, but there's no apprehension.
Right. Greatly, suggested about the mobile medium. So it's actually an opportunity. So, Ananya, if I can come to you right now, as a brand owner, as a business owner, how do you see the medium of mobile complementing your digital mix here? And, as Jay mentioned, do you conquer with these challenges that, brand owners or, business owners really think about the mobile phone?
Yeah, like it's a very interesting trivia that like Jay was absolutely right about the fact that I think it's a given fact now that mobile is leading the growth in India, right? And yet I think a lot of it is surprising that when I see around, a lot of practices are still like dependent on being reviewed and being made for larger screens, right? And to some degree, I believe it is high time that marketers and brands need to get over that traditional hangover, right? And really move towards building fit to format kind of a approach, which is again not just, it's not only about building efficiencies on the medium like mobile. It's also that your communication is going to be more receptive and respected by the consumer itself, right, if it is made for mobile. And I think that it's those blurred lines itself are not surprisingly very well established or practice across the industry, because when it comes to mobile, it's not just the media domain or media industry who's actually responsible to driving that. It's the creative fraternity, it is the brand owners, it is also the it is also the production houses who need to come together to understand, identify what is going to be better receptive and better fit for our consumers. And if they are on mobile, then start working on building on mobile. And naturally, when you see the growth from homegrown apps like Moj or MX, MX players, social media, but you see the fact that people are actually directly even skipping larger screens, they're coming straight to mobile. So I think there is no it should not be a surprise, I think, and that we have to move and focus on a mobile first narrative, right from our boardrooms to then to briefs and then to our execution, right? Because that's exactly where consumers are. And I think the only point I slightly differ in terms of the fact that is uh, mobile is actually has become the first screen. I think I believe that the second screen concept was something that was initially brought in to establish mobile as a medium, but now clearly it has overtaken as being the first screen, right? And rather TV is a second screen, and rather laptop is a second screen. Even right now when you're talking, you're constantly, I think, one eye slightly is on the mobile phone, right? And that's the attraction, and that's the attention that that device has started taking away from everything else.
Right, interesting input indeed, Ananya. So, Vivek, I would really want to come to you here, right? You have a plethora of mobile products, right, on the Times Internet. So, my question is more about, when clients or come to you for a digital, kind of plan or a digital activity. How do you suggest them, in terms of mobile first versus digital first, or like Ananya mentioned about small screens versus large screens?
Yeah. So Satri's first thing I think we, the way we discuss and encourage brands to think about is that, data science is talked a lot these days. Everybody sort of claims that they are data driven, they're data savvy. I think data is a science for the non-believers. I think data is a science for the skeptics. Data science is not a science for the believers. So I think it is very important to set aside your beliefs, or what beliefs others may have told you. There are no givens. As you guys are talking about all these facts about mobile and CTV, we encourage our clients to set aside their beliefs for a second and actually look at the data, right? And they themselves come back surprised a lot of times, that, they tell us that, this medium has never worked for me. Like, this will not give me. I'm saying, when was the last time you actually went into the database and checked this data? You may have been carrying this belief, this notion that this works, this doesn't work, this doesn't suit my consumers. When was the last time you actually went into a real data source and checked this fact for yourself, to question your beliefs, right? And that's what I think we encourage them, and that's the discipline we also follow internally. That first set aside most of the premises you have, because we are in digital. There is data. Let data be the king. Let data tell us all what's the right thing to do. I think with that as the starting point, we get into a lot of interesting conversations. So many properties being on the table, like 20-25 different offerings being on the table. It's very hard to break brands out of their molds and get them to try new products, and all of our products have like 20-25 different offerings at the same time. So I think for us the biggest challenge, Satrajit, is to break the conventional molds. A lot of clients and agencies who actually come into the market with long standing biases, like this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this works, this doesn't work. So we actually push a lot to sort of them to try new things, try stuff, look at actual data, and that's where I think we unlock a lot of our value. Your question was also related to mobile. I think on the mobile front, native experiences is what the biggest challenge is. I think the screen is so small. Ananya said it's the first screen. Unfortunately, it's a very small first screen. So you have seen a lot of casting kind of thing picking up. Like people are watching it, but they're not able to see properly. They're not able to enjoy the content. So then they'll cast it from that small screen to the big screen. So I think the size of the screen always remains a challenge. And creating experiences that are immersive, enjoyable, within that mobile app, I think that becomes a challenge for us. That's what the team works hardest all the time. I think one last thing I want to add is we are very excited about this huge wave of AR VR and the whole meta thing that's coming up. I think a lot of teams have started working internally on these concepts. I think this should unlock a lot of value for that mobile first screen, because the first screen will now become the lens, right? Instead of just a screen, it will be a lens through which you will view the world. And that should unlock, I think, massive potential for brand solution and immersive experiential kind of companies. So I see a revolution on the card if this picks up in a big way in the next couple of years, and hopefully more dollars flowing into digital as a result of that, Satyajit.
As you're discussing, about the importance of mobile in this entire media mix, I would really want to come to Jayakishan here and understand ITC's point of view, right? How do you as a a brand owner, from ITC's point of view, look into this medium, right? We have heard our panelists say that this has become this was the second screen, and now it has become very much the first screen for a lot of Indians. As a window to internet, right? So your take on that, and how are you strategizing, keeping this ever so growing medium in mind?
See again, if you actually look at the number of mobile screens and smartphone screens, they outnumber the number of TV screens today in the country. So while predominant India still ends up being a single television household, but a multi smartphone household, if I would put it. And that has basically given flexibility to the individuals to kind of browse and access information, data, content at their own convenient time, if I would put it. Traditional TV appointment viewing has come down drastically. There's a certain age group which has completely exited the television appointment viewing platform. So the television viewing now, when you kind of take a cut by age, it looks like an hourglass. So either there are young kids or there are older people who are kind of watching television. But people have not stopped watching content or consuming data, and it's kind of come on your handheld devices. Whether it's access to your social platforms or viewing content, and everything is kind of coming out here. So the limited point is the planning and the approach is pretty much similar to that of doing it on any screen. It's just that the screen has now kind of come into a different size and a format. So in fact, quite a few initiatives that we did recently in the last 12 to 18 months have been keeping in mind mobile as a screen. and thereby the thought process even during the planning stages in terms of thinking, okay, now when I'm thinking, think of it with mobile as an alternative screen and hand as well. And so whether it was initiatives on community building, it was initiatives in terms of doing an outreach through messengers, bots, and other things. All those elements have kind of come into play in the last 15 to 18 months. And as I kind of also indicated a while back, this was also the time when most of the brand custodians were also willing to put in that or take that punt on this platform and put in a bit more of money to kind of try out something new, something different.
Right. So very quick kind of a round I would want to do. So we can start with Ananya first. Ananya, what's your take? Like, how do we see the future here?
I'm gonna steal answers from Jay and Vivek. Basically, I think it's always gonna be consumer first. Be consumer first. Be understand and simplify. Your priorities. Be avoid shiny objects. And always follow a sort of a 80-20 or 70-20-10 rule to give in to newer opportunities, newer frontiers, like Vivek mentioned, metaverse, and or even in terms of newer platforms which are coming up in the social media realm, or content marketing. Given a leap of faith to to test out, learn, keep learning. Basically, about newer platforms, newer formats, newer ways to measure. Uh, I think these are fundamentals. I like, at least I've seen in a decade plus kind of an experience of moving from uh, offline to online to offline and integrated now, media spaces, right? So I believe these principles should not change, whatever the format becomes. And eventually, yes, everything, a lot of things will be digital. TV might even further evolve with connected TV, and the entire DTH industry may further evolve, giving better measurability, like to digital. But it will not change the way marketers or media should operate.
Right. Jai, your take?
So, yeah, for me, it's basically there are 3 pointers. So the first pointer is obviously, following the consumer. So that remains the core, and I don't think so that's going to change, because whatever happens, even 50 years down the line. So that's point number one. Point number two is lot of things which are happening, and this is specifically more at an agency level. It'll go through a lot of automation. So the entire media planning process is going to be streamlined and automated and all, and the need for that is very urgent, because media fragmentation is at its peak, and it will just ever increase. So we've spoken about TV, digital, and all that, but within digital also there is lots happening. There is gaming, which is going to have a lot of importance. So given all these factors, automation becomes the need of the hour. You don't want a planner to spend too many hours and all that doing that. And it what we've also seen from a talent perspective, it causes a lot of burnout. So if the data can be crunched, and then only the insight is what can be aligned with the client. So that's the second point. The third point is about, as I call it, taking a punt. Trying to do something before data has arrived. So if there is something new which is happening, and there are, and these things can go wrong. It's not necessary that every time you take a punt you are successful. And I think the way Ananya mentioned 70-20-10, so 10 is what I'm talking about, where you might not have data, or you might not have any kind of measurement, but somewhere you believe that this is future. This is something which is, and if brands can latch on to that, it'll bring them exponential benefits. So that's the third thing. So that's what we try and encourage internally, that try and align with the client and say that this is what I believe in. I don't have any data, I don't have anything, and I'm not asking you to put 100% of your money, 10% of your money. If we can do that, I might fail, but if it succeeds, it's going to bring in exponential, because you are doing something which no other brand has done. So these are the three broad principles I would probably put.
Great. Thanks, Jai. Vivek, your take. How do we see the future evolving?
where I'm certainly not an expert on media planning, honestly. And after what the really elaborate and great answer that Jay has given and Ananya gave earlier, not nothing much to add. I can probably echo and emphasize, the second point that Jay made. I was actually going to say the exact same thing. There's a huge scope for automation. Media plans are now like unbearably complex. You really feel for the media planners. The Excel hell that they live under. And I think the platforms, without taking names, I think we all understand, the monopolistic platforms have done very little to ease the pain of the planners. If you look at the experience of these platforms, they work great in terms of the backend automation and intelligence, but the experience and trying to ease the life of the planner, I think very little focus has been done there. And there's a lot of scope for sort of startups to come in, create some tools that the industry can use, and hence spend more time on the really substantive things rather than the mechanics of it. Everything is digitized. All your data sources are digitized. All your deliveries are digitized. So why can't just all of that be connected together and take the pain away from the planner? So I think that's the only largest point I'd like to sort of put additional weight behind what Jay said. Automation and huge scope for better experience for the planners.
Great. On that note, Vivek, I think, it really makes sense for us to make the life of the media planners more simple. Yeah. So, we have heard about, trends being spoken about that really, can guide the future for this ever so growing media business is concerned, right? We have CTV, we have heard about the importance of mobile, and we have heard about the importance of newer formats like AR, VR tools, connected television, and so on and so forth. So, Jagdishan, from ITC's perspective, and from you as a marketer and a market leader, how do you see this future really shaping up? As far as media planners are concerned and media business is concerned.
See, if you look at the current set of media professionals who have just entered the industry and the kind of work that we have been seeing in the recent past, some of it is genuinely really exciting and really good. Probably 25 years back when I was starting, we just had access to something called a videoscope, which was a 9 city data. And we used to get the data in floppy disk, to a situation wherein today the analytics actually kind of track the journey of the viewer right from viewing it to technically leading it to buy now, and then also of some e-com platforms to figure out whether the purchases apparently happened or the cart was abandoned. So, with access to certain tools which never existed earlier, I think the journey is pretty exciting. Times are good, and I think it's probably the right time for people in media to just leapfrog from here to the next level.
So thank you, gentlemen. I think we have discussed a lot of points here, diverse point of views we have seen on the topic of how medium and the business of media planning is evolving in this dynamic digital environment. We heard Vivek mentioned about a lot of new areas, AR, VR. Heard Ananya as a brand custodian, how they're looking at mobile as a first screen, right? So thank you, everyone. Thank you for a diverse perspective. I really hope that we meet sometime very soon, and we keep on discussing the next phases that we really touched upon today. Uh, from all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, stay tuned to ET Brand Equity.
Thank you everyone for delving deeper into the topic and for sharing the insights. Dear viewers, there's an expo area where our partners have set up their booths. Explore the area for all the interesting videos and PPTs.